let me tell you what hell really is. Hell isn't a place that we're trying to avoid going to, as we were told. Hell is already here. Hell is a potential. Hell is a stream of consciousness. Hell is a dimension. It is a reality that's created by these unprocessed traumas, the refusal to go within and heal thyself. In the experience where I went on an astral tour through hell, each person had a hologram inside of their crown chakra, right over top of their head, like a screen, a holographic screen in the air, and constantly they re-experience their traumas. So if you had an abandonment trauma, most of your interactions day to day led back to that, and you thought about it, tried to let it go, and then you got feelings and emotions that have been created because of the thought that you marinated in. And that's torment, because nobody else could see what they were being tormented by. And this is what we've been doing. Hiding our pain, hiding our grief, hiding our anger, not really knowing safe ways, healthy ways to be with it and process it and to let it go. And so we're in these personal cells, prison cells, where we're having negative, critical thoughts, thoughts that create sabotage, catastrophic thoughts. We have this cognitive bias. So before we experience any information, we're filtering it through what we think is safe or what we think is trustworthy. Through this filter of all of this pain now, there's going to be some miscommunications. And so we smile and say, I'm fine. I'm doing good. How are you? But 12 hours out of the day, we're being tormented by these thoughts, these emotions, these feelings, the inability to regulate the nervous system. That's hell. To experience torment, torture, suffering, pain, to not feel like you can express it, share it, trust anybody to come into your life to assist you with it, because this keeps you in a victim mentality, right? Because I'm re-experiencing my traumas over and over again, which means I'm a victim to life. And so whatever is happening outside of me in the holographic simulated reality is going to reflect that, because attention controls where energy goes. That's a prison cell. The body is meant to be a sacred temple. The third temples are us being rebuilt, as within, so without. The wars we see happening in holy lands in the world is happening within the parts of us. It's happening in the holes of us. The war is happening within us, between the head and the heart, the ego and the heart, fear and love, this duality. We're being called to integrate so that we're not living in black or white. Every mood disorder, every personality disorder, depression, anxiety, all of these things, one thing that they all have in common is black and white thinking. There's no in between. And because of this system, there's been a lot of neurological disease and brain development issues that many people have experienced and are undiagnosed. That's the scientific side of it. That's the structure of the brain that has changed because of certain traumatic experiences, not just in this life, in past lives, and not just in your experiences, but whatever your mother went through, because you bathe in those waters, and water holds memory. So even if she doesn't remember, it touched us in the womb. The womb has not been respected and honored. The womb has become this pacifier to satiate, satisfy, to give our partners a sense of confidence. That's a false sense of confidence. It's just a confidence band-aid, and it goes away soon after. And so that core energy has been transferred from us into the people we have shared ourselves with, until we do a proper cord cutting and know how to sustain detachment once those cords are dissolved, which is actually a different process. And I've spoken about that before, and we'll be teaching about that more on Patreon. But to dissolve these cords and keep them from reestablishing themselves is how you call your energy back. So there are sprinkles of us and people that we have shared our bodies with, our mind, our hearts with, until we recall that energy back to us. And so if you have 50 pieces of you that have been scattered in 50 different people, no wonder you're having psychic fatigue, physical fatigue, emotional fatigue, caretaking fatigue, difficulty being able to process information. Your cognitive is impaired. On top of that, the gender-bending chemicals, the chemicals masquerading as foods, they interrupted a natural flow. And they put another layer of the music on top of there. Go and look at the Illuminati card game. It's all there. It's all laid out. And now, since many of us incarnated in this time to be the ones that says it stops here. And even if I feel like there is a possibility that people will no longer love me, want to be associated with me, around me, with me, because I'm enforcing boundaries. I'm discovering areas where I've given my power away. I'm calling my power back, and I'm not allowing myself to lower my frequency to try to meet someone on the page that they're in, because I'm writing a new chapter. And it's not love to myself to leave my new chapter to go into my past, because I'm reactivating old realities that created trauma, that sustained trauma. And I'm also allowing another individual to cause a quantum entanglement with that which we are called to no longer participate in. And if you are getting these light code activations and your DNA is shifting and changing and cellular memory is shifting and changing, and we're receiving this plasma from the sun in the 6th solar cycle, we're receiving energy from Betelgeuse, this star that was supposed to have died, but it didn't. We're receiving energy and channeled messages and transmission to help us, and new data from the cosmos, from Sirius A and Sirius B, whatever galaxy you, starseed, came from most recently and beyond. We're experiencing that. And if you're getting all of this information, activation in your body, your mind, your spirit doesn't know how to trust the process, doesn't know how to create routines and lifestyles that will sustain this great thing that we have been called to accomplish, there will be war in your holy land. And the holes within you that we have tried to fill with external validation, you can't ignore them, because they suck energy, they take. And in this episode, I broke down crying so much, because to see a visual of what I energetically see and read within my life, myself, my clients, in the collective, it really did put more detail into what I was already being shown. So let's say that you have been giving your life force energy to someone else who feels depleted, less than, and not whole in your relationships, and maybe you haven't studied Reiki. Maybe you haven't studied how to enforce healthy boundaries. Maybe you don't know how empathic you really are. Maybe you don't know you're a highly sensitive person. And most people who are called to a spiritual awakening have these characteristics. Most. And so because of that, you have been transferring your life force, taking on their burden, their trauma, their pain, unprocessed, into yourself. And so when they get agitated and irritated because the chicken is coming home to roost, whatever damage that has been created by the male, even if he's unaware of it, whatever damage the program that's running in his subconscious mind based in a toxic patriarchal culture is running in the background, those things are actually what control how we create our reality and the energy we bring into our reality. But if you have compartmentalized and you're unaware of it, then feeling like you're a victim to life and your situations, that's a form of shielding. You're putting up a firewall and protecting yourself. And so it's to say, look, yes, I threw the rock. It's too painful for me to be accountable for the damage that I've done. So I'm just going to ignore it, and I need you to make me feel better. And so a lot of us did it for a long time because we watched our mothers do it, our grandmothers, our great aunts, our aunts, great grandmothers. Like, we watched this. Women felt like it was their responsibility to stand behind a man and make him great. This is the Rosa Parks of feminine empowerment occurring on this planet as the divine feminine is rising. And we realize, I'm not going to sit at the back of the bus anymore. I'm not going to stand behind the man anymore. I have something to offer this world as well. And as we're sitting in this space and seeing how things would be more harmonious versus the chaos we're experiencing, because we all, law of attraction, there's a law of vibration and there's cause and effect. So as we're experiencing that, if you're judgmental and critical and you can't experience it with compassion, you're going to be more easily irritated. You're going to gaslight. You're going to play the victim. You're going to be passive aggressive. You're going to do things that actually it's just a reflection of the emotional, the lack of emotional intelligence and maturity. And so while the bickering and maybe not even verbal but non-verbal tension is coming up, it hurts the woman in a way that there are no words to explain because of our makeup and everything that comes with it. And as we're being detoxed from these old systems, the numbing medicine is wearing off. And coming back to life again, something regaining its ability to feel, it's uncomfortable at first. No different than going to the dentist, getting dental work. Once the numbing medicine wears off, which is represented by our coping mechanisms, the way that we have rationalized and justified these things, for fear, because so many of us, we love our men and need our men. We really desire our men. But if he's dealing with PTSD, complex PTSD, emotional, dysregulation, mood disorders, personality disorders, brain development disorders, maybe he's on the neurodivergent spectrum where maybe he's not as neurotypical, or maybe she's not as neurotypical, because again, we have both energies within us. So even though I'm saying man and woman, translate this as masculine and feminine, female, male, okay? But I'm using the traditional setup to help make this point. And so because we have been trained and depleted, now that we're not able to give, some of us are experiencing less reciprocity from our partner because we were in a transactional relationship but maybe didn't know. And so it's like, oh, okay, so you're not going to make time for me, so you're not going to do this, so you're not going to do that, all the things you used to do for me, so you're not going to cook dinner when you get home from work anymore, so you're not going, and we have spoiled our partners trying to uphold a social construct meant to keep us at the back of the bus. And so a lot of men feel like it's unfair. They feel like they're being punished. 1 in 3 couples are not having sex, and if so, it's farther apart and less frequent than it was in the beginning. A lot of us can't even sleep in the same rooms with each other right now because we're being healed. So this isn't a negative thing. This is a step in a healing direction. Instead of worrying about how to improve my partner's perspective of life, instead of worrying about regulating my partner's energy, we have to restore our own. Because the effects of the patriarchy, the holes within the heart, it created this insatiable desire that cannot be filled or met. We must learn how to meet these needs within ourselves. But due to the shame and anger, it can be comforting to be angry, right? Especially for those of us who have a hard time with boundaries. Sometimes we wait till we get mad to set and enforce boundaries. And we push people back because we don't know how to enforce healthy boundaries. So we get into a push-pull situation. And so because the perception is distorted, there's an experience of torture and trauma every day happening, all in the mind. But a lot of times we're smiling and saying, I'm good, I'm okay, I'm great, how you doing? And most of us can relate. You ask your man how he doing, he's like, I'm fine, I'm good. But you feel energetically he's not. He may not be aware that he's not okay. Because he wasn't rewarded for being in touch with his emotions. So we have been psychologically weaponized. And the male has become a minefield. Listen to the words, a minefield. And what's in that field? A lot of pain, sadness, abandonment, rejection, triggers. And so the feminine has walked on eggshells for generations to keep from pissing off the provider. But now that women have the ability and the laws are in place where we can do more things, we're in a better position than those that came before us. So we don't have to do the things that the generations of women before us did to try to keep a happy home. For the man, the masculine, that's difficult because he may not like feeling as if he's not needed because of the social construct, the toxic culture, that a man is useless if he isn't able to do something or give something or make something happen. He feels like this is out of his control, and that's trauma-induced. That's a trauma-induced way of being in life where I feel like I can't control this, and subconsciously, this is not conscious, okay? And so the energy says this is a weaker vessel, and I can't even control her. I ain't got no control of what's happening in the world. I ain't got control over my own emotions. Like, I just feel like everything is out of fucking control. And a lot of men are on the borderline of being depressed and psychotic. And this is why we see so much violence with women being unalived by men who oftentimes are their husbands, their partners, their children's fathers. The list goes on. And you can go and look at the statistics. I'm not going to do all of that here because I've done that in the Cosmic Isis Papers lecture that is on Patreon. But statistics prove everything that I'm saying. Why was it so important for us to go to war with one another? To not be able to see past the filter? To keep us in a position of subjugation and oppression. And this destabilization and the agenda to keep this going is going to continue. We have until 2029, according to the 13th moon, which is a lunar calendar used by indigenous cultures. And in this time period, within this 9-year prophecy, the purpose of deconstruction is reconstruction. The purpose of endings and death is rebirth. So for my women who are investing in themselves, as your value system changes, your values are what's driving that. And if your partner is afraid of you changing so much that he's useless in your life, then you know that that programming has touched your relationship as well. This isn't all negative. This has a beautiful purpose and intention, which is for each of us to go within ourselves, to learn how to be with the discomfort around certain experiences, emotions, decisions that we have made, to learn to soothe ourselves so that we aren't seeking external validation, which is actually a form of narcissistic supply. The heart is the pathway to higher consciousness. And this virus will not win. We have been predetermined to evolve, to live in a time so special as this. And the timelines that I see unfolding as we each individually do this healing work within ourselves. I'm recording this in the Libra season of 2023. So as we are learning to balance out the masculine and feminine within ourselves, the use of the mind versus the use of the heart. So we're learning how to do that. We are going to need more time to ourselves to work through things. And I hope that most men in this world can finally accept the fact that the system we have operated within had a huge, insidious agenda to siphon energy from the feminine, who has the capacity to not only create a human being, to hold space for that human being, but to give birth to a human that could actually change this world. Every man that has ever changed anything in this world had to come through a woman. Knowing that, learning how to allow her the space that she needs to work through things, especially if reciprocity in a relationship isn't balanced, or maybe when you get triggered into feeling abandoned because she is more focused on her passions, that's a sovereign, sacred time for you to figure out, why do I need her to stay the same? Because if you do not, you will unconsciously become a warden over these prison cells within hell, not allowing her the freedom of expression, to chase her dreams, to fulfill her passions, to manifest her goals. For so many men, if manifesting these goals don't include them, they feel inadequate and unimportant. And that's like death to a lot of men who have not been able to heal the psychological brainwashing that they went through. But for the women, for a long time, I allowed the fear of what might happen if I don't stay the same to keep me the same. And when I let that go, when I learn the practices I've been teaching here and all of the new ones that are coming in every day that I'm adding to a guidebook for sensitive souls navigating this world, specifically speaking to the feminine. So it doesn't matter your gender. There's a lot that we can learn by studying one another, because our relationships is the replacement for initiations that are no longer occurring for many of us due to colonization and slavery. And so if your relationship feels like a shamanic journey into the underworld of facing fear every day, that means that you are called to be a generational curse breaker, not a sustainer. And in that space, your woman is a mirror to the parts of you that you were denied the right to explore. We deserve whatever it is that we need to recover and heal, because the wounds that a lot of men created in their unawareness, in their unconsciousness, from a place of survival mode and living in fear, they don't know how to de-armor us. And if they are easily propelled into defensive mode or downloading things that's happening with you or your observations and conversations that you bring to them as some type of criticism, that has nothing to do with you. That is the firewall that was set up in the coding of the 3D matrix by the archetypes and creators of an oppressed reality, so that the man cannot go through these initiations and come out the other side more powerful. And no matter who you are, if you reach higher levels of enlightenment, no matter what spiritual system you use, even plant medicine, that is the feminine that brings that on. And it cannot be done without the feminine. So if you cannot help to de-armor a woman, for the men who can't help us do this, even if they participated in some of the pain that was caused, the gift that they can give to us is the gift of understanding, even when they don't. The gift of saying, I don't know how to create a sacred space for you, and I'm learning to navigate this world using my heart, so I'm a little wobbly. And no matter how offended I get, I'm going to remind myself this is not personal, but this is your spiritual awakening occurring. And I want to let you know that I know that you deserve to be supported. And I'm going to do the best that I can to do that for you, and not put pressure on you to have sex with me, to validate me, to reassure me, to fix me, to feed me, to dress me, to nurture me, to love me, to help me recover from injuries, because that's usually the responsibility of the woman. Stay tuned for more. And for those of you in the Sacred Sister Circle, I just uploaded the replay, and I gave the foundations of what is necessary for us to change the paradigm that was created to cause a holy war against our wholeness, against one another. Namaste. Namaste.